Okay, it still works. Cool. Yeah, welcome everyone. Thanks for having me. Today I want to talk about accessibility and about some common pitfalls I've seen people making, especially when not that familiar with this topic. And first of all, the slides won't work. No, okay. Some words about me. I'm Danny. I already introduced myself. I'm front-end architect at DB Systel, which is a part of Deutsche Bahn. And together with Ferdinand, who also introduced, we wrote an Angular book, or currently we're rewriting this book, and it's published in a few months. You can buy it. And yeah, I'm passionate about accessibility and inclusive design. I like to make apps really accessible and probably also optimize them for people with, let's say, visual disabilities or something else. So first of all, why accessibility matters. Accessibility is something which influences about 15% of the worldwide population, which is like 1 billion people worldwide. And if we make our apps accessible, everyone benefits from it. So because we are always, so all people are sometimes disabled for some reason. We are temporarily disabled if we have like a baby on the arm, or we have maybe bright sunlight shining on our screen. And that's why it's very important to make our applications accessible in design and also hardened for assistive technology to use. And of course, it's also by law. We have the European Accessibility Act. There are also international laws. We have in Germany the Barrierefreiheitsstärkungsgesetz. And there are a lot of guidelines we can and we should follow, like the WCAG criteria, which you probably heard of. And last but not least, it's about business value, because if you look at the 15%, it's a large, huge group of audience we should not left out. So yeah, that's why accessibility isn't just a nice to have, it's really essential to make our applications accessible. And so let's start and have a look at some common pitfalls. And if you look at this small snippet of HTML, maybe someone will raise the hand and say, what's wrong with it? Yeah. Everything, yeah, that's good. So there are at least 7 major accessibility issues here. The headline is not marked as a headline. So we have a navigation, which is only a div. We have clickable divs for some reason. For navigation, it should look like a navigation. At least it says the class name here. We have a form, which is also a div. So it's all a whole soup of div. And we have an import, which is only labeled by a placeholder, and there's no label really connected to the input. There's a submit button, which is also a div. And so, as I said, at least 7 major accessibility issues here. And so what's wrong? No semantic HTML. We have not used landmarks here. Clickable divs, no heading structure, missing form labels, a placeholder as a label, and we have no keyboard support. And keyboard support is also something you use every day without thinking about it. So we all go on a website and tabbing through the page to find the button and just press enter. And this is something we're doing on our daily business. And if it doesn't work, we are frustrated, right? So it's also about user experience. And so semantic HTML is a foundation to make our applications accessible. If we use proper semantic HTML, so if we use all the wide range of HTML elements the HTML5 standard provides to us, then we have like the 80% solution, I would say. So this is really essential to use semantic HTML. Here's the same code snippet essentially, but using semantic tags. And semantic HTML means that the elements are not just used for styling or something. It is that the elements bring a meaning with them. So if you only use a div and a span, it doesn't have a role or something else. It doesn't tell assistive technologies what's behind it. And if you use semantic HTML elements and landmarks, then you are able to know if you can't see the content on a page, then you are able to know by a screen reader which tells you the role of the element. It tells you this is a navigation, it has 2 links, and the link are home and products. Otherwise, it will just tell you home, products. And so you don't know, is it content, is it a link? I don't know. So that's why it's really important to use semantic HTML. This is really essential. So we have a form element here. We have a label which is properly connected by the ID attribute and for. And we have a form with a submit button. So this looks good from HTML side. So this makes it keyboard accessible and screen reader friendly. A part of semantic HTML are the landmarks, and the landmarks are important because they help screen reader users to navigate through our page, through the whole big regions. So think about an application where you have a navigation structure with like 200 sub-items of navigation or something like that. If you don't have landmarks or skip links, I will come to that topic in short, then you have to go through every item step by step, and you can't skip them. If you have landmarks, you can use the assistive technology to jump directly from the header to the main content or to the aside or to the footer. It makes navigation really more easy and fast. So that's why we should always use landmarks. And I think almost every application has some sort of header, footer, and main content. At least a site is probably something you don't have on every page. So they create navigable structure. Skip links. Skip links are an addition. So they're complement to landmarks. Sometimes people make the mistake and they use landmarks, and they also introduce a lot of skip links because they think it's really good. It makes it more screen reader friendly to have a lot of skip links, because the skip links are used to like provide a better UX for screen reader users. So you essentially put an invisible link on the page, and screen reader users start with the beginning of the page, and they will a screen reader will read out the content of the skip link, which is invisible, but they can jump directly to a target on your page. This makes sense if you have if you want to lead your screen reader users to the main usage of your product, of your site, but you should not overuse it. And you should not provide a skip link to jump from the header to the main content, because that's why we use landmarks. It simply doesn't make sense. So, but what we could do is, and what we should also do, is to make skip links visible when we focus them. This is also one of the WCAG criteria, that we should not have links we can focus and we don't see the focus. Because then if you are able to see, you may get lost on the page because you focus some item which isn't visible and you don't see the focus on the page. This doesn't make sense. That's why you should make the skip links visible when you focus them, and that you can do with focus within, as you can see here on the right page, using CSS. So the CSS snippet here looks quite odd if you not know it, but this is really a common pattern you will find in almost every CSS library. Because screen reader will struggle to read out content which is hidden. That's why the trick is to make the element which is not hidden, to make it as small as possible and just like hide it this way. So this is a common pattern, and if you look in big CSS frameworks, you will find this always with skip link or SR only class or visually hidden. This is also a common name for the CSS class. So let's talk about buttons and links. As I said initially, you should not use a div with a click handler. even if it lets you easier style the so-called button. But this leads to a thing which isn't a button. It's simply just a rectangle where you click on, and it maybe works, but not using keyboard navigation. And that's why you should always use a proper button. But what you also not should do is to use a button for navigation things. So you should always use a button for actions and an anchor tag for navigation. This makes is also if you make a right click on the element and you have a button with a click handler, you can't open this in a new tab or something because it's not a link, right? And that's why I also only use the links for navigation. Okay, some word about outlines. Also a common problem, especially if you have maybe some design expectations, and if sometimes designers are also not familiar with the topic accessibility, they may tell you, oh, it doesn't look good if you have the button focus and there's a blue outline coming from the browser because it's the default. They will maybe tell you remove them, and you should tell them, no, we shouldn't remove them, because then we get lost. We don't know where is currently the focus, and if you press accidentally enter, you don't know what have you pressed now. And that's why you should never ever remove the outline. What you can do is that you can style the outline, and you can style the outline setting different color, different an offset, or define the border. And if you want to have a really fancy outline, you can also use a box shadow instead of the outline. But yeah, by default, you should leave the outline as it is or style it. If you style it, think about color contrast. I will come to that later too. And I will have a small storybook demo, because some of you may never heard how a screen reader pronounces something. I will start VoiceOver on my Mac. If you have Windows, you can use NVDA or JAWS. There's screen readers you can download, you can install them, and then they will tell you also about the things. And you have to maybe look for a short introduction how to use them, because it's not just like keyboard navigation. Yeah, I would just open this in isolation mode. I hope you can hear.
Mai ausgewählt. Gruppe.
I have to mute myself here.
Mein Meeting Leipzig.js Nummernzeichen. Mein Meeting Leipzig More Audio Controls.
You know how I can turn off.
Schaltfläche. Gruppe. Dani kommt
Okay.
jetzt. My App.
Just
My App.
leave with the echo.
Home. Products.
Have you heard it? Only tells you home products.
01 semantic voice-over aus.
And if I have the other example. Okay, no voice over. Why is this weird? To mute myself. Yeah. I have to think about a bit in audio. Yeah, I can't turn it off here. Okay, let's try the good example. Just for short, I will turn on my mic.
Maybe you say something before and then after, and the other one will be the machine.
Yeah. Okay. Here.
Navigation. Link Home. Link Products. Ende Navigation. Ende Banner. Mein Überschrift Ebene. Enter your name. Enter your Name. Submit. Schaltfläche. Vollständig geladen. Storybook. Webinhalt.
Okay.
Voice-over aus.
Just stop it. Now you have a clue how a screen reader will say things, and usually people using this every day, if you listen to them and to their screen reader, you may not hear anything because it's so fast, but they used to have it so fast like that. But using this built-in tools, or at least at macOS, you can use VoiceOver. built in, and as I said, for Windows, JAWS or NVDA. Trying out these tools helps you to understand how people who can't see your page will behave, how they will listen to the page, how they will listen to the content. And I really encourage you, try it out, close your eyes, and try to reach every element on your page, to click every element on your page without using your eyes. It's really fun also, depending on how good your page implements accessibility. So a common thing also is the lost focus. This is especially a problem we run into when dealing with single-page applications. It doesn't matter if it's React, Angular, or Vue. For all single-page application technology, you usually have a router within, so it works like that you call a resource on the server, maybe example.org, and if you call a subpage contact, it will redirect you to the index.html, and the router from your SPA kicks in and takes over and exchanges the content within the part where the routed view is. And if you have a look at the example left, here's a contact button within the red dashed frame, and the red dashed frame is our router view here, which should be exchanged when changing the site. And if we press this button, the focus got lost because the content within the routed view is replaced. And if we try to focus the next element, then the screen reader will do its best to focus an element which is near, but since the DOM is destroyed, you may land in the message field on the right, which is not your intention usually. You usually want to start either at the very beginning of the page or at least at the navigation. So depending on your use case, but this is what somebody would expect. I click on the contact button and I want to start at the beginning of the contact form with a new focus. And this is something you should keep in mind when dealing with single page applications. Oops. Everything fine? Okay. And therefore, your router, this is a router object here, is very abstract. It's only JavaScript. I don't want it to have a code snippet from Angular, Vue, or React here. So, but you may get what I mean. So after the navigation, you should focus the main area where you want to be. And for example, if you have router, you can use the navigation and you can filter for the events of the router, and then add an automatism that you will always focus the main area. And this is also something you can do with React or Vue, and with their routers, or with 10-stack router, for example, doesn't matter. So this is something you should always keep in mind, because may you wonder that when you change the site and try out the screen reader, you are focusing some element you don't want to. So yeah, unique page titles are also a requirement. Why is it essential to have unique page titles? Yeah, of course, we are all developers. We have 200 tabs open usually in our browser, and if they all say home, then you have to search which home page is it, or my app or something. That's why you should always give your page and sub-pages a unique page title. And again, all single-page application frameworks will provide a solution for you to set this title based on your route, based on a service which delivers you maybe dynamic data or something else. So this leads also to better SEO. And yeah, it's simple. Forms done right. Forms are a quite tricky thing, so they can be tricky. And a common mistake people sometimes make is that they use a placeholder as a label because it looks like a label. Of course, if you add a placeholder to an input element, then it's shown within the input, looks nice, cool. But it can lead to problems. Some screen readers like VoiceOver meanwhile hardened enough, they will tell you the placeholder is the label for something if there's not an extra label, but not all screen readers will behave like that. And a placeholder is simply not what it should be used for. So it's not a label. You should use a placeholder for providing some example data, for example, which users should input. And also here, the other input field, the checkbox, there is a label below, but the problem here is that this label is not connected with the input field. And that's why, of course, if you go through your page step by step, it will read out at some time, except terms here. But if you focus only on the input fields, it doesn't tell you that this is the input for the label except terms, right? And that's why you should always connect input elements or text areas or select with a for and the ID attribute. So the interactive element should have the ID attribute, and the label for it should reference to this ID attribute. And with that, when I focus the input field, a screen reader will tell me here, in this case, enter your email. And what you can also do, you can leave out the attributes and nest the input element within the label. This is also valid. Sometimes you have to keep in mind that some CSS libraries don't work with this solution. So depending on the selectors, you have to try out. And also a cool thing for user experience here is that when having an input within the label or an input connected with a label, I can also click when it's a checkbox on the label, and the checkbox will also get checked or unchecked. Oh, yeah, and the autocomplete attribute is also interesting. If you have some common fields like first name, last name, email, telephone number, or something like that, then you should use the autocomplete attribute. There's a list on MDN or some other pages which are supported, and this helps people with cognitive disabilities to fill out your forms, because they can simply enter the pre-filled value they used before. And it also helps us all for a better user experience, of course. When marking invalid fields, we should not only mark them visually. We should always provide proper ARIA attributes. ARIA stands for Accessible Rich Internet Applications. And these ARIA attributes are in addition to the semantic HTML elements, and they will help us to give the elements even more meaning and set some properties, for example. So on the right side here is how we should do it. Here we have an input field, of course, connected to the label with the ID for relation, and we have the ARIA invalid true, which tells the screen reader, when I enter this field, I have to read out this field is invalid. And we should also use an ARIA error message or ARIA described by. Oh, sorry. I don't know why the zoom bar. Okay. Doesn't go away. Anyways, so ARIA error message or ARIA described by should be linked to a text field explaining why the error happens, what goes wrong, and how can the user fix it. So that's most important, not only to tell users there's something wrong, so because then they may don't know how to fix it. So tell them what is wrong or how they can fix it. But for password fields, of course, don't tell them their password. Form submission. This is also something, a common mistake, that people are used to disable the submit button of a form. This is fine because it looks good. So you think, okay, the form is quite clear. The form is disabled because you haven't entered any values. But the problem with it is that screen reader users can't focus the disable button, so it's not read out if you not have an extra ARIA description or something else. So some way in the middle is to use the disabled field, but provide an ARIA described by attribute to an element which describes why is the button disabled, why can't I submit this form. This is okay-ish, but the better way is to always think about how can I tell users the best? How can I tell users what is wrong in my form? And therefore, you can you should provide an info text next to the field or to the fields, depending if it's one or more, which are invalid, which explaining the fields. And you can or you should enable the submit button, but when trying to submit, you should not directly submit the invalid data to your backend, but tell the users, here it is wrong, mark the fields, colorize them, and also the best thing is to focus the first element, which is invalid. So with that, users are trying to submit at the end of your form, and then the focus jumps directly to the first invalid element, and then they can start over and fix the issues they have with the form and try to submit again. This is the best solution. You can also have, like, at the end of the submit button, a list of the errors, an error summary, and maybe link to the fields using anchor elements. This is also fine. It also depends a little bit on the UX and how big is the form, how it should behave. But try to prevent to disable a submit button. All right. Am I on time? I hope so. I haven't checked the time, to be honest. So here, Storybook is gone away. Here. I have the forms demo here. And one thing I also wanted to show you, which is quite funny, at the semantic HTML bad example here. If you have something like in Storybook, you have accessibility tests also included. But the funny thing is, it doesn't tell you there are any violations. Why is that? Because simply from the structure, if it's only divs, Storybook can't know that there should be a button or that there should be a link, that there should be a navigation. So that's why it says, oh, there are not any issues. And that's why it's very important to not only rely on automated testing, but also do manual tests. But back to the forms. Here's a bad example. I only mark the fields as red. I don't want to start voiceover again, but if we investigate it here, we can see it's not marked as invalid. And we can also, I will maybe zoom a bit so that you can see something. And what you can also do, and you should do, is if you don't have don't want to start voiceover, which is really helpful, use the developer tools in Chrome or Edge or whatever. And you can start here with the accessibility tab. It's usually next to the styles or something. And then if you focus the element here, it only tells you it's a text box. And as you can see here, there's no area label, no meaning for this element. So it's just like unlabeled because we have not connected the message to it. If we have a look at the good example, which is probably better, then you can see here is a form label email. And if we make it invalid, we can see it is required true. And is invalid state, yeah, invalid user entry, true. And this is really good because this now tells a screen reader, this is invalid, this is the email field, and the screen reader have the connected error message here and knows, okay, I have to read out the error message which is referenced here. And this is this element, of course. So this is a useful tool to check your accessibility, to check for roles and for ARIA attributes, because also some of the HTML elements bring included roles and ARIA attributes. For example, if you use an ARIA with role alert, then it automatically becomes a live region. I will tell something about live regions in short. Live regions are generally for the screen reader can keep track of this region and announce changes. And if you use this role, then it's automatically in live region. You don't have to set it to area live again. All right. Yeah, live regions and dynamic content. This is, as I said, live regions are regions on our page where assistive technology keep track on. They notice there's a live region, and whenever something changes here, I have to read it out, or I have to read parts of it out, depending on the configuration. And the problem with these regions is you have to have these live regions initially. So if you render, for example, your page and you have a set timeout and you add a DOM node later, which is an area live region, then your screen reader may don't notice this region if you not jump with the focus on it and it notices, oh, here changes something, it's a live region, I have to keep track on it. Then the screen reader is not aware of this region, and so it will not announce anything. So it fails silently with no announcement, and you may wonder why it doesn't work as expected. And the solution for this is to provide global live regions. And global live regions, the idea behind this is just to add one region at the top of the body or something like that, which becomes visible for a screen reader initially and is hidden, so visually hidden. And but the screen reader have this empty region, and notice whenever something on the content changes here, I push some elements within, I have to read them out. And this is a cool solution, especially for like toast notifications, status messages, for global announcements. So for whenever you have some announcements which are not locally to this area where currently your focus is on. Compared there to you have the local pattern, and the local pattern is ideal if you have, for example, a chat, and you have the chat open, and then your focus is on this chat, and new chat messages are announced, a live feed, or component-specific updates. And yeah, you have different area live attributes where how you can control these live regions. You have area live polite and assertive. Polite means a screen reader will keep on reading out what he's currently reading out. And if there's time, it will announce the changes in the live region. And you can have it assertive, which means announce it immediately. Then the screen reader will interrupt immediately with reading out what he's currently reading out, and will read out the content of the assertive live region. This should be used very sparingly, because if you have 10 live regions with a lot of assertive, then you may wonder and you can't really navigate through the page. And you have this area atomic true you can set, which makes the screen reader to read out the whole live region, not just the changes. This is good if you want to read the text as a whole. And if you have like lists, you may set it to false, because think about the chat messages. You don't want, if the whole live region is a chat and the new chat message comes in, you don't want to read out the whole chat history, but only the new items. And you can even control it more with using area relevant and set it to additions, removals, text, or all, and then you can fine granular control how the live region behaves. So visual accessibility, we should always keep in mind to check the color contrast. This is something usually designers should also do before it lands in development. So you should keep in mind the area conformance level with the contrast ratios. I don't read them out now. You can read it by yourself. But there is a requirement, and you can also check it in the Chrome developer tools. When clicking on an element, you can check the contrast between the element and the background, and you will see if it's conform or not. Yeah, as I said, can use Chrome DevTools, WebAM, Contrast Checker. This is fine. Media alternatives is also important. Also a thing people make sometimes a mistake. Oh, here's an alt attribute missing. That's why I can't see something. Here is it correct. A very beautiful Angular book. And you should always provide an alt attribute with a meaningful description for an image. The only exception is if you have clearly decorative images. Let's say you have a button showing a disk icon, and next to it you have the text save. Then you shouldn't, or you shouldn't add an alt attribute with save, because a screen reader otherwise will tell you save, and it doesn't make sense. So for clearly decorative images, you should set an empty alt attribute, but you shouldn't remove it, because if you remove it, a screen reader will tell you just image. If you set it to empty, it will tell you nothing. So yeah, it will just leave it out. And what you can also do, if you have, like, think about you have a diagram and there's a description anyways next to the diagram, then you can also add the area described by and tell a screen reader, here's an image. This is maybe a system architecture here, and the description you will find in this element, read out this. So this is also okay. Yeah, you should also provide media alternatives for videos, like captions and descriptions. And reduced motion is also a thing which has a big impact for visual accessibility, because not every user wants to see our fancy, cool animations. So sad, but some users have experience with motion sickness and so on. And that's why we should have a media query. Luckily, we can use a media query in our browser to respect the user preferences of the system. And then we can limit the animations to a minimum or completely remove them. Yeah. Okay, last but not least, testing. How can we test everything I've said now? Disclaimer, you can't test anything automatic. This is sad, as I've shown you before. But we have automated testing tools, at least for checking for conformance, for misusage of area attributes, for misusage of nested elements or something like that. Then a very big plus is the DevTools suite. There exists as an extension for Playwright, for Cypress, for automatic end-to-end OS. We can use them in the developer tools as an extension. They're really helpful and give you a lot of insights, and also provide information on how to fix the issues they found. And also Google Lighthouse is a good tool. You can have a Lighthouse report, and Wave is a tool for WebAIM, which has a visual feedback overlay, which shows you on your page where are some automatic accessibility issues found. And of course, we should test our pages manually. We should make use of keyboard-only testing. So we should try out to reach with our keyboard all interactive elements, to control interactive elements, to submit the form, enter the values, etc. And of course, try out screen readers, use VoiceOver, NVDA, JAWS, whatever. And also try to zoom your page, turn on the text zoom on 200% and check if the layout breaks. Check if everything is still visible, if there's something odd. And this is also important, especially for elderly people. They're used to zoom on things, and this is also very important. And last but not least, you have the browser development tools, the built-in tools. As I said, you can check the accessibility tree. You can use a contrast checker. You can use Lighthouse for automated audit. And yeah, that's it. So the key takeaways: use semantic HTML, test with keyboard, focus management is essential, forms need labels, live regions must exist before any updates, contrast matters, And test. This is very important. Test manually. Ideally, search for some people on your target group or some people in the company. Let other people test your application, because we all know that if we build something, we may blind of all the rest around. And yeah. So accessibility is not a feature, it's a fundamental requirement. And yeah, only some resources. And if you want to have a look on the slides later, if you want to check out the storybook demo, I published everything on GitHub, which is deployed. You can use it, try it out, and you can follow me if you want. If not, fine. Okay, thanks.